Hello and welcome to the 15th episode of the magazine Monologues. Today's article is going to be coming from the June 2021 edition of Wired. It is titled Hardball SoftServe and is written by Andy Greenberg, who is a senior writer at Wired. The article chronicles the story of a startup taking on big ice cream, or an ice cream cabal, if you will. So, basically every soft-serve machine of frozen yogurt, ice cream, milkshakes, places at McDonald's, frozen yogurt shops, everywhere. And almost all of those machines are manufactured by a company called Taylor. And the article starts off by talking about how Taylor has this secret menu for maintenance and repairs and things like that. So what'll happen is they focus on McDonald's because that's the focus of the article actually, but a McDonald's franchise will get the Taylor machine and they can't repair it themselves because you have to put in a 16 button code to access the actual system's menu that you would need to do for repairs or diagnostics or things like that. And so they have to contract with Taylor or a distributor, or basically some subsidiary or arm of Taylor in some way or fashion, to do the repairs for them, which, if you've ever experienced this, which I'm fairly certain almost everybody has, the SoftServe machine is down or the McFlurry machine is down or whatever. That's because the Taylor machines are they said they're similar to Italian sports cars. They actually work phenomenally well so long as no single part breaks. If a single part fails, the entire system just doesn't function. And so that's why the machines break so often, is if there's an O-ring that you forgot to put back in when you do your bi-weekly cleaning, or if you overfill with whatever product you're using, be it frozen yogurt or ice cream or whatever, you just have no idea because there's no error message that says so unless you can get into the secret menu, which only the repairmen have, and it's a 16 button code to get in there. And it's not a keypad, so it's not like you enter in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or anything like that. It's, you'd hit up, then down, then up twice, then off, then refrigerate, or whatever the 16 buttons are on the machine. They have a picture in here of the face of the machine, and it's not a numbered keypad. It's all basically buttons that you would probably not be surprised to see on a DVD player, right? But yeah, so the startup initially was started as a company called Frobot, which is a play on frozen yogurt and robot, because it's O'Sullivan and Nelson are the two partner names. They started the Frobot company by basically creating a frozen yogurt vending machine, which I'll admit I've never seen something analogous in the US. When I lived in China, I saw a orange juice vending machine, which would take oranges and then squeeze them and give you a cup of orange juice, all within a vending machine robot kind of situation. The Frobot was basically that around a Taylor frozen yogurt machine, and over the course of producing Frobot, I use the term hacked not to mean that it was illegal or evil or whatever, because a lot of times people hear hacking and they think bad, but they hacked it in the sense that they were able to bypass the 16 button code to monitor diagnostics, so that way they could better make their Frobot machines work. And initially, Taylor was on board with this. Taylor had Frobot machines at trade shows, or they'd talk about Frobot or whatever, right? And they kind of knew that Frobot was doing this thing where they would make a workaround. And Taylor was kind of okay. They weren't explicitly unokay with it, and they were tacitly okay with it by bringing it to trade shows because it was just another source of revenue for them, right? More people buying machines. That's awesome. Where the story gets interesting is the Frobot eventually didn't totally pan out because of the maintenance requirements and whatever. It just became problematic for cafeterias or malls or wherever they sold them to do their own maintenance, and so the Frobot employees would have to go out, do some maintenance, and come back, and that wasn't the idea. The idea was to have a fully automated system that, minimal. So all you'd have to do is, pour in the ingredients, and you're done. So they then pivoted, and in 2019, they relaunched themselves as Kitch. It's spelled Kytch, for anyone who wants to look it up. It's kind of a play on the word kitchen and interconnectivity, because what it is it's a single device. They didn't actually give the dimensions, but they did have a picture of it. I would be surprised if it was any larger than something like this. And it's a wirelessly connected device which can be jacked into a Taylor machine, and it bypasses all of that 16-button code situation. And since it's Wi-Fi enabled, the store manager or a franchise owner or whoever is overseeing the Taylor machine, primarily at McDonald's, again in the article, can just go to an app or go to a website when their Taylor machine breaks, and they can see something and it'll be like, oh, so it broke because I had an employee add too much of an ingredient. Okay, cool, easy fix. I'll explain not to do that. Or it broke because I missed an O-ring or whatever. It was able to it was bypassing the 16-button code and reading out a diagnostics menu. Without Kitch, you'd have to wait weeks to get a repairman there. They'd do their 16-button thing, they'd fix it, it would go back. If it breaks again, you have to wait again, and you'd lose, as a franchise owner, right, at McDonald's, you'd lose thousands of dollars in revenue from the ice cream, because if I go and want to get an ice cream and it's out, I won't spend that money, right? Like, yeah, it's $1 for the ice cream, right? Think about 24-hour day McDonald's. How many customers do they get? If you're closed down a week, you're probably going to miss out on a few $1,000s of revenue, which is bad from the franchise owner's perspective. Not good. Taylor kind of knew the entire time that Kitch was doing this, and they're called Kitch now. They were Frobot before, but they're called Kitch now. And they knew they were doing this. Kitch had a Taylor machine taken to, I believe it's Shenzhen, China, and they were working with a company called Hax, H-A-X. There was a world famous hacker hardware hacker who's able to bypass codes or systems or whatever for consumer products to create new devices to make them better, called Andrew Huang. And so they worked with him to bypass this Taylor code, get Kitch up and running, make it wirelessly accessible, easy to work, etc., etc. Taylor knew that this was happening and didn't really say anything. And they don't say this in the article actually, but what I'm assuming happened is McDonald's franchises were starting to use this, and it was picking up, starting to use it, and so they weren't paying the multi-$1,000 repairman retainer fee to Taylor, and so Taylor didn't like it. And this is all in a current court case. This is all going on in discovery right now, is my understanding. So some of these are speculative clues because it is Wired basically talking to O'Sullivan. They did try to reach out to McDonald's, Taylor, another individual associated with McDonald's, which we'll get to shortly, and they didn't get a lot of info or no responses. So keep in mind, I'm not saying O'Sullivan is wrong by any means, but it is still in discovery. It's still going on. There's still a lot of questions about what exactly happened, but the short version, and then we'll get into more details. Short version is Kitch thinks that Taylor obtained one of their devices and reverse engineered it and pushed them out of the market. So if you wanted to stop the video now, that's the entire summary, but some of the details. So Kitch was starting to pick up. They were in McDonald's franchises, they say globally. I'm not certain if that means 2 countries or 100 countries or 17. I have no idea. They just said globally across McDonald's. There's something called the National Owners Association. It's the largest trade group of franchise owners for McDonald's. And there's an individual, last name Gamble, who is they toss around a few different titles, but he called himself the equipment lead in a quote, so I will go with equipment lead. Basically what that means is, for this National Association of Franchise Owners, this guy will recommend products or recommend against products, or maybe there's some specific brand of ketchup bottle squirter that works. I remember when I was a kid, they didn't have the pump, it was all in packets, but I'm sure that the equivalent of this guy is whoever, a decade, 15 years ago, introduced the ketchup pump and it caught on, things like that. So that guy gave a pretty hearty endorsement at the National Owners Association meeting in October of 2020. And Kitch was ecstatic. They were expecting orders to skyrocket. They did start to go up a lot. The problem is, November 2nd of 2020, McDonald's sent an email saying that these Kitch devices could cause serious human harm and, just all sorts of other things. That was the most insane claim, is that a wirelessly connected device that's only purpose is to give you diagnostic info could seriously harm or kill another human. Seems unlikely. But so they sent that email, and there are responses in the article from McDonald's franchise owners, anonymously, mostly because they don't want to get in trouble with McDonald's or other people that might be involved in this. And they said it was an insane email to read. Like, it was something they'd never seen before. Taylor has been supplying McDonald's for a very, very long time. They have a very long and very deep relationship. It's not surprising that McDonald's is going to necessarily side with Taylor. I don't have all the details, it's not really discussed in here, but McDonald's is solidly on the side of Taylor, according to this article, which the court cases, I assume, will also point that out, because Kitch is suing Taylor and McDonald's, so. But yeah, so that went on, and the Kitch people were just blown away. They were like, what is happening? We did not expect this. What is happening? The McDonald's franchise owners just canceled all their orders because McDonald's said that by using it, you were going to violate your Taylor warranty, which meant that even, like, Kitch is very good and it, like, helps with a lot, but you still need maintenance, right? Like, if an actual part breaks, if you violate the warranty, then you're just like SOL, not good. So they canceled all their orders. Kitch got curious. They started digging, and what they found is, since it's a wirelessly connected device, every device has an account associated with it. And part of the contract was Kitch prohibited the franchise owners, or anybody, I mean, it wasn't just McDonald's, but anybody who got their device, they prohibited them from giving them to other people. Basically, like proprietary trade secrets kind of thing, right? And so what they found is Gamble, that equipment lead I mentioned, had ordered a bunch of devices. They eventually tracked through, and they found out that one of his devices had been located at a Taylor distribution center it was 3 different states. It had traveled around to 3 different distribution centers. Only one coming to mind right now is Arkansas. And the name associated with the account was a name that they hadn't heard before, but they went back through and they found a phone number of a Taylor owner, a cell phone number, because they had met him at trade shows. Again, remember, back to Frobot, Taylor loved them. So they had good relationships with Taylor for a long time, so they had business cards and cell phones, etc. So they found out that a cell phone number associated with an owner of Taylor was associated with one of the accounts of Kitch from a device that they had sold to Gamble, or rented. I believe it has an activation fee, and then it's a monthly fee. I don't know if you own the machine or you rent the machine. Like, do you own the machine and rent the service? Do you rent both? Like, they didn't clarify, but that's nitty gritty. But basically, Gamble's machine had been at this Taylor distribution center getting repairs for 6 months over a bad compressor. O'Sullivan says that it does not take 6 months to fix a compressor, so that's probably not true. What happened shortly after the November email, which, keep in mind, this is 6 months ago, is Taylor came out with their own device that was essentially a Wi-Fi diagnostics tool that is functionally identical to Kitch. And at that point, because McDonald's was really pushing that, a lot of franchisees would go with that device, the Taylor device, over the Kitch device, because the Taylor device wouldn't violate their warranty, even though it is basically the exact same thing as Kitch. And so what Kitch is doing is they are suing McDonald's and Taylor. They didn't actually say, or they probably said, and I just forgot, what they're specifically suing over. I assume it's an intellectual property rights case. I really don't know much about IP. It's not really my thing. But they're in the process of doing that. O'Sullivan does recognize that this is likely the end of the company, just because even if they win, they're a small startup. McDonald's and Taylor are both massive companies. This could go on for years, and so 3-4 years from now, yeah, maybe they win, but at that point, every McDonald's company or every McDonald's franchise is going to be running a Taylor Wi-Fi product instead of the Kitch. So that is what it is. At the very, very end, they do say that when interviewing O'Sullivan, he does recognize that this article might just be an obituary of the company. I really like the article a lot. It was long. I don't know, maybe 10 pages, 12 pages. When I say long, I'm talking about magazine long, right? 10, 12 pages. I liked it. 10 out of 10 would actually recommend Wired, but Wired is much more long form, at least so far that I've seen. So it's not short like The Economist. A long Economist article is 2 pages, maybe. Like, that's a long one. A lot of them you can have 3 articles to a page, but they're all very, very good. Wired seems like it's got a lot more of just like 10 or 12 page long articles, but I liked it. Yeah. So the next one is going to be from another magazine. I'm sorry, like I said, I have 18 magazine subscriptions. A lot of them are starting to show up for, like, I got The Economist, then I got Time, then I got Foreign Affairs, and like that's all I had. The next one is going to be Travel and Leisure. The next one after that will probably be National Geographic, but I did get National Geographic and a Showboat International. It's a magazine on yachts, which I got mostly for the pictures, but I'll see if there's an article in there that's interesting. Thank you.